one of the most important turning points in LGBTQ history was sparked in the summer of 1969 at a small bar in Greenwich Village. An untipped police raid was the final straw for the LGBTQ community, which ultimately transformed a quiet, non-violent homophile movement into a public national fight for liberation. Through exposing police harassment, organizing new activist movements, and shifting the movement from silent reform to a visible protest, the Stonewall Uprising changed LGBTQ activism for years to come.
Throughout the 1960s and preceding decades, queer people lived in societies and under laws that criminalized same-sex relationships. People were often arrested, fired, and kicked out of bars simply for how they dressed. Even a smear of lipstick on a man's face could end in public harassment. Leaders from the Mattachine Society and the Daughters of Bilitis, some of the first LGBTQ+ organizations in America, took pragmatic approaches to societal acceptance. They encouraged members of the community to dress formally, avoid confrontation, and prove that they were respectable members of society. However, an accumulation of police raids, harassment, and constant discrimination left many members unsatisfied, and by 1969, frustration within community grew as many wanted stronger public action.
The Stonewall Inn was one of the few gay bars where LGBTQ youth, drag queens, and transgender people could get together. It was a place of refuge where people could be free from the shackles of societal expectation. But this all changed on June 28, 1969, when the police raided the bar for the second time in 1 week. Although raids were common, they were often monthly, and bar owners were given tips of the NYPD's plans beforehand. Yet this was different. This raid single-handedly changed the trajectory of LGBTQ history forever. Officers began arresting people and forcing others to leave the premises. Rather than complying with police orders, the people stood their ground as a sign of protest. Witnesses later described a moment when the crowd had collectively decided that they were done staying silent.
The police went through the crowd, assaulting people left and right. One officer even hit a lesbian in the head as they took her away, provoking outrage as nearby residents and other crowd members threw coins and bottles as chants filled Christopher Street. For nearly an entire week, people returned to protest police violence and oppression. Queer youth, drag queens, transgender women, and other community members led the resistance. Then and now, newspapers label the event as a riot, but many LGBTQ people viewed Stonewall as the first time they had seen a large-scale resistance against the system that preyed on them. Hence, many prefer the term uprising instead.
Although Stonewall was not the start of LGBTQ activism, it completely changed its approach. In the following months, new groups formed, including the Gay Liberation Front and the Gay Activists Alliance. These groups' goals were not just about being accepted, they strived for liberation. They rejected the idea of quiet assimilation and instead held protests, sit-ins, and zaps that would directly confront politicians and institutions. This new wave of activism was louder, more diverse, and more public than ever before.
We were fighting just to exist, and Stonewall changed all that.
1 year after the Stonewall Uprising, activists organized the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, the first Pride March in United States history. The march began with only a few hundred people, but it quickly grew as more joined along the route. As a ripple effect, Chicago and San Francisco held their own Pride events the same year. Pride became an annual tribute to the uprising. Stonewall ignited nationwide activism as new LGBTQ nonprofits, newspapers, and youth organizations formed.
The Stonewall Uprising transformed what was once a pragmatic homophile movement into a vocal movement that strived for liberation and expression by exposing oppression, influencing new organizations, and shifting the focus of activism towards mass protest. Its legacy still remains central to LGBTQ+ advocacy today.
This ruling will strengthen all of our communities by offering to all loving same-sex couples the dignity of marriage across this great land.